What's up, everybody, and welcome back. So a few weeks ago I upgraded my TIG welder and bought an Everlast Typhoon 230 with a water cooler, and it has been sitting on the floor because I sold my old one and I sold it with the cart that I built for that TIG welder. So I needed a new cart. Yes, I could have bought one or built one myself. I started designing in SolidWorks and then decided not to do it, mainly because of three reasons. One, hard to get pickled and oiled steel here for my supplier, and the thickest they go on cold rolled is 16 gauge, so difficult to get it. One. Two, time. I have to go up and get it, come back, get it all set up on the plasma table, cut it out, clean it up, and get it ready to weld. Third, if I can, and this is the most important reason, if I can, and there's a good product, I like to support another fellow small business owners. So I went ahead and ordered myself a ZTFab welding cart. Came in yesterday, got it all unboxed, and now I'm going to start unwrapping all the pieces and we'll go through it. It came with, I ordered 6 of these tubes, and like I couldn't believe the price, like 106, I think it was $116 maybe for 6 tubes from ZTFab. I don't know what they are before, but I remember looking them up and they was going to be a lot more than that to buy 6 tubes. That's why I built my own previously. But again, time is money now, so I just ordered them. And then this morning I printed up a little divider. Now I can print more of these. I probably have to print 1 or 2 more for my aluminum rods, but this one's going to be for all my mild steel. So I'm going to put it in right now and check it out. It's supposed to just clip in here. There, it's a little looser than I thought it would be, but that makes sense because it's got to tap in there and there's a little ledge. So now I have my 1/8 inch. This is all the same filler wire, ER70S-2. This is what I use for mild steel. I have 1/8 inch, 3/32, and 1/16. So instead of putting it in 3 separate tubes, I'll put it in 1 tube with the divider. There, now I got 3 different sizes in the same exact tube. Yeah, perfect. That works out great. Set all those to the side for a minute. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. Let's unpackage the rest of this. So it all came bubble wrap packaged really nice. The bubble wrap is actually sticky on backside, so it just wraps and sticks to it. I've never seen that. None of my stuff's ever come with sticky bubble wrap before, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so this stuff is really cool. This is all 14 gauge, I believe. Let me check. This is all 12 gauge. This is 12 gauge pickled and oiled steel. If you don't know what pickled and oiled is, one of my other videos, the how to remove mill scale the easy way, I'll explain what it is, but I'll explain it again. So this is hot rolled steel that's been pickled and oiled. It's dipped in another process. There's no mill scale on this whatsoever. I hate cleaning off mill scale. So that is one reason why I went with this. So these are the side braces. They go on the bottom. Here's the main base plate. Really, really nice, bent perfectly, all dimple dyed. The ZTFab logo. The bottom braces go along here. Then we have the tray in the back for the bottles. This goes in the very back. Bottles will go up here. Now this is a 1/4 inch. This is a support brace for the wheels. This is 1/4 inch thick, pickled and oiled. And that's a really nice piece. Now these pieces right here are for my MIG welder. And it's got like little tabs and slots. And look at this. Just clicks in. Perfect. Now I can weld those up, and I got to stop for my my MIG welder. I got front and back. Then I got 4 hose holders to get welded onto the pipes. All right, so I'm about to start tacking up my weld cart. The directions say to clean all the edges, even though the metal is super clean already. It says to clean all the edges with sandpaper. What I did is I took my DA with some 80 grit and just went across it like one pass real quick, and they were perfect, ready to weld. And then I wiped them down with acetone. And now I took some 1-2-3 blocks from Fireball Tool and set it up for 3 3/8 tall. And it set the base at the perfect height for the sides. So these are all supposed to be outside corner joints. So they're perfectly set up. And now I'm going to start tacking up here. And I'm going to work my way back and tack it all the way back on both sides. I'm not going to fully weld anything until it is all fully assembled and put together, and then I'll fully weld everything up. Now these sides may have a little bit of bend in them from the dimple dies, so that's why you start at the front and just tack it as you go, and don't tack one in the front and then tack one in the back, because your middle might be too short or too long or whatever. So you start at the front and move your way back on your tacks. You don't want to have to cut a tack if you don't have to. So think about what you're doing and how you're putting it together. Methodically put it all together. Follow the directions from the website. You shouldn't have no problems. So I'm gonna get to tacking this thing up. I have my amperage set to 130. Give me a little bit of extra power. I'm gonna use 3 30-second filler rod. And I'm using my CK Worldwide torch with the Jazzy 10 cup and the laser CK Worldwide laser tungsten. There you go. There's 4 tacks right there. I'm going to continue on, tack all the way down this side and all the way down the other side, and then we'll come back. Okay, I have the base all tacked together. The next step, well, check it out. Look, this is going to weld together so nice. Like, that's why I always say nice clean metal welds way better than dirty, nasty metal. Mill scale, grind all that shit off, get rid of all the mill scale, and your welds will always be better. All right, so the next step is to put the bottle tray in, get it lined up, get it tacked together, then put the axle bracket in. Be careful, these edges are sharp. I just sliced the shit out of my finger. Good thing I got band-aids. That's why he tells you to wear gloves. This issue that I'm having right now is why you're supposed to do the outside fillet welds. I did not go fully wide enough, obviously. So my fillet welds are not, the outside joints are not fully out. So now I'm struggling getting this to come in here. So hopefully I can get it in. I don't have to cut any of those welds. I'm gonna cut a tack. Okay, I cut the back two tack welds. Hopefully I'll be able to get this to fit in there a little bit better. It wasn't fitting evenly. Okay, again, this is an outside corner joint. So I held it up and tacked the back side first. Now I will manipulate it and get it to where it's fitting and tack the inside. All right, the bottle tray is tacked in. The next thing is to do the axle brace. It just slides in, should just slide in, just like that. Take the axle pins, line up the holes. Line up the axle holes, use the axle pins to line up the holes for the axle bracket, and then tack the bracket in place, and then we're going to fully weld this up. Okay, so there is the base all tacked together. Now I can fully weld this whole thing out. But you do not want to weld this. You do not want to weld on the outside of the axles. If you weld on the outside of the axles, the wheels will not fit on there. So I'm going to start welding this whole thing up. I'm going to weld about 2 to 3 inches at a time and bounce around to distribute the heat, hopefully not warp this thing up too much. That's a pretty nice weld right there. Check that out. That looks good. Nice looking weld. All right, so now you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bounce around, go on time lapse, and continue on, rock this out. A quick tip for welding is you always want to be comfortable, right? So start at your get most comfortable at the end of your weld, and then move your hand back to the beginning. So I'm getting comfortable. I'm setting up and getting comfortable at the end of my weld, and then I'm moving my hand back to the beginning where I'm going to start from. That way I'm always coming into my comfort zone, and I'm at least comfortable when I'm starting out. All right, I think that is enough. This base is fully welded up now. Got the support brace welded in. Okay, so base is fully welded up now, all the way around here, all the way around the sides. The axle bracket is welded in, stitch welded in. I welded the tops of the braces. I'm not going to do the sides because I got the bottom and all this and that. I think that's plenty. Yeah, I think it turned out really, really good. It looks good. All the welds are nice. So the next step is to put the bars in. So I'm going to get them sanded up and cleaned up, and probably use the fireball squares, magnetic shims, to get them in there, because the bars are supposed to sit flush with this. So if I do the 3 3/8 stack again under each one of these holes, the bars should sit right on them. And then I just got to figure out how to make sure that they're square and 90 degrees. So I'm going to get those bars cleaned up, and then we'll put them in. All right, so this is what I figured out. These tubes have got to be they got to be 90 degrees straight up and down vertical, right? So what I did was I took some 1-2-3 blocks, magnetic 1-2-3 blocks, and put them underneath the cart, underneath the base, where the tubes are supposed to be. That stops the tube from falling through the holes. Then I took some fireball squares, triangles, and clamped them to it. And I'm going to tack it, and it's going to move around because I have no way of holding this square down this way as well. So it's square right now, so I'm going to tack it. Then I'll remove this square and make it 90 degrees again, and then tack it again. And it's going to be a back and forth thing until they're 90 degrees. So, yeah. I'm going to tack it in the back and the front before I do the sides. Looks like it pulled that way just a little, so I'm going to release one and tack the inside and see if it'll pull back this way. I'm going to get the other one up, tacked in place, and then I'm going to use my trays. I'm going to use my trays to tack and make sure that they're the right distance and make sure they're vertical that way. And this will definitely help keep them straight. I moved it down to the floor so I could actually reach it. It was pretty tall up on the table, but so I tacked the bars in, right? They're only tacked down at the bottom. So they can still move. There's still a little bit of movement in them. These things got to be parallel and they got to be 90 degrees up and down, right? And you got to make sure, and the reason it's got to be that way, it's got to be parallel and perfect is because these brackets got to go in for the welder, and the back piece for the bottle bracket is got to go in. So I will have to probably squeeze them together because they're not parallel right now. You can tell by that one it's going out. So I'll have to squeeze it together. But if I do this, like they're good to go. So I'll just have to get something to squeeze it together real quick to make my tack welds. The next thing, before you tack those brackets on right there, before you weld those brackets on, you have to measure your welder. So this is Everlast Power iMig 275, and it is 25 and 7/16 roughly, 25 and 7/16 from the front to the back. So I'm going to go 25 and a half. Just give me an extra 16th of movement, and that is between these braces, between this brace and this brace, 25 and a half. And you can see I put some witness marks of where that is. So I got a witness mark right there. I don't know if you can see that. There's a blue line there. The sun is kind of, you can see, there you go. You can see I got my witness marks right there. So that's where those are going to go. But good thing I checked this before I weld it up. I have to notch these brackets or else the door will not open up. This is the door where you put the filler wire or your MIG wire in, and it opens up like so. If those brackets are there, there's no way for that door to open up. So your options are to either cut the door or cut the brackets. I'm going to cut the brackets because I don't want to mess up the paint on this. It's going to get hot. Like this is that's at least 16 to 14 gauge steel. I can't cut that with tin snips. So I'm going to cut the brackets so I don't mess the paint up on that. That's my choice. That's what I'm going to do. You do what you want. But just be aware of that. If you build one of these carts, before you weld it together, you got to figure out what you're going to do to allow that door to open up. So I'm going to get the cutoff wheel, cut those things. I marked them both, not how I'm going to notch them out. So I'm going to cut those out and then weld them up to the braces or to the bases, and then start tacking this thing the rest of the way together. All right, I got my pieces notched. my brackets notched and welded in. I welded on the bottom from the tab and slots, and then welded a stitch weld on each side, front and back. Now I'm using a fireball tool clamp to squeeze them together, and it's working pretty good, but you can see like that's like slightly off, so that could slip off at any time. But so right now I'm gonna tack this side on both front and back. Make sure they are square, 90 degrees with the square, and lined up with my witness marks, so my dimensions, so my width or my welder will fit in there. Get those tacked up, and then this piece will be next. It'll get tacked in, and then after that they'll get fully welded up, put the wheels on, and this car will be done. Oh wait, no it won't. I gotta weld it all my brackets for my hoses. Witness marks are lined up. I'm gonna put a tack in the front. Check and make sure it's square. Damn, that is perfect. I do want to do this. Go make sure it's square one more time. Square. All right, the back piece is tacked on. It's tacked on. Perfectly square. Both sides. Now we move on to the front. I'm gonna start on this side because this is where my witness mark's at. Make sure it's perfectly lined up. Take one more measurement. Everything's measuring out the same, so these are parallel, square, good to go. Nice. All right, now that those are tack welded on there, I can remove this clamp and it shouldn't move. Everything should be good to go. All right, now my next step is to put this on. Now these got to be orientated with the holes up top. So the chain goes in there and sits down on the bottom and holds the bottles in. Now, this goes on here like this, and the height is determined by your bottles. So my bottles are pretty tall, so it doesn't, I can put this, I'm gonna put this as high as possible. Probably right around in there. And then, yeah, my only concern is the tubes. Like the tubes are not wanting to go through. So I wonder if I squeezed it together more, or if I'm supposed to just pound them through. There we go, the tubes go through. All I did was I just put a little bit of weight on it and just moved it just a little bit. Now, I've sanded all these inner tubes down. Not really sure if it's gonna do anything, but now I need to figure out a way. I'm just gonna tip it up on its front. There, that'll work. What do you think, eh? Hey, that'll work perfect right there. Lay this up here. Make sure it's square. Sitting pretty damn square to me. All right, that's all square. Everything's squared up, tacked up. I think it's good. I'm gonna start fully welding it up now. All right, well, I am almost completely done welding this thing up. There's one thing I got left to weld up, and that's the axle. I'm gonna show you how to do that, but first, I welded up the brackets. They're welded all the way around. One thing I will tell you about that is make sure you sand and clean that metal properly. I did not do that, and I had spitting and sputtering, so then I had to stop, clean it up, sand it up, and then cut out the old weld from the spittering and sputtering, and then re-weld it. But that happened on the first one, so I recognized that and sanded the rest of them and didn't have no issues with it. I made sure that I set my MIG welder on top of it to make sure I knew exactly where I wanted it to go. And then I used a digital angle finder to make sure that they were all at the same angle. So they're within 1/10 of a degree of the same angle of each of them. 54.45 degrees is what I was going for. That's what I set the first one at, and I liked it. And so that's what I did with the rest of them. So onto the axles. The axles are gonna protrude through the back of the brace. And these gotta be 90 degrees that way and 90 degrees up and down as well. So, but you need to know how far in it's gotta go also. So the way I'm doing it is I'm putting the wheel together, setting it in there, then tacking it, and then bumping it around until it's perfect, 90 degrees, and then I'll weld it up. And I'll use heat distortion in my favor as well. That meaning, like when I get the axle in there, if it's off a little bit, if it's not straight, I'll tap it to where it's almost straight, and then I'll tack it. I'll use the heat, I'll tack it, and it'll pull it the rest of the way. I'll show you, you'll see what I mean. So the sleeve goes into the wheel. Make sure that the zert fitting is outside. I also sanded my axles, so there's no mill scale where I'm going to weld, so I'll get a nice clean weld. Okay, so you got the sleeve that goes in, you got the axle and a washer. And then on the outside, you got a washer and a cotter key. Just stick it in there. That's how far out it's going to protrude. That's about 1/4 inch. Now I cranked my amperage up to 225 for this this also, because this is 1/4 inch thick steel. That's a 1/2 inch thick rod, so you need more amperage. Put pressure on the wheel and make sure it's straight, and then try and tack it. You get a tack on it, then take the wheel apart because there's grease in there and there's bearings. You don't want to overheat. You don't want to overheat those bearings. Okay, now you got a tack on there. Take a square and check it. Damn, that's pretty square that way. It could go that way just a little bit. And that can come up. So, I'm not going to hit it that way because it's barely, like I can tack, oh, I did tack it that way, so. But you see all that movement? That's probably too much. Yeah. There we go. Right now it's 90 degrees both directions. So I'm going to tack it again and then fully weld it up. Now I got it pushed down just a smidge, so I'm going to tack it on the top and it should pull that thing perfect. Boom, perfect. Now I'm going to fully weld it around, let it cool down, and then I'll put the wheels on after it's cooled down. Now for these thicker parts, I'm also using thicker wire. This is 1/8 inch thick filler wire. Still 90 degrees. Still 90 degrees. All right, that thing is fully welded up, and I think it looks killer. Like, I think it looks really, really good. Now I just need to let these things cool down. I'll put the back wheels on, put the front wheels on. All right, the next thing I need to figure out what I'm going to do on this is how I'm going to protect it to where it doesn't rust, because it is raw metal. And right now, I think I'm going to just rub it down with a bunch of Gibbs oil just to protect it, because it's way too cold outside for me to paint it, clear coat it, or Cerakote it. So I'm just going to rub it down with Gibbs oil, and then maybe this summer I will take it apart, go have it sandblasted, and either powder coated, or I might just Cerakote it myself, because I'm a real big fan of Cerakote, and I think Cerakoting this with a color would look really, really good. And yeah, so I'm gonna let this thing cool down and put it all together, and then I'll come back and show it to you with the welders in it, the welders on it, and it all finished up. All right, she's all done. There she is. Both welders. I got my TIG welder, my MIG welder. I don't like these hoses. I gotta figure out. I seen a post on Facebook where somebody was able to shorten up all those hoses and clean all that up. Still got to figure that out. But once I figure that out, that mess will be cleaned up. But yeah, everything fits really nice. Got all my filler wire. It's nice and chained. Rolls really nice. Let me go right here. Look at that. Wheels around. And it's gonna go right into the spot. Boom. I think it looks good. I like it. I like it a lot. Now, like I said, could I have designed and cut this out on my own? Yes, I could have. But it takes a lot of time to design stuff like this with this much detail and thought on SolidWorks. So to me, it was definitely worth it to spend the money and buy this, because it's a well thought out product. It works well. The material is great material, welds up super nice, goes together super easy, and everything just works. So like I said, if I can and if I can afford it and somebody's got a great product, I'd much rather help support a small business and purchase their product than spend my time trying to design something that's already been done when I got plenty of other work to be doing. So, like I said, that's going to be it for this one. This one's all done, completed. I really like it. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notifications button. I'll catch you on the next one.